Hi everyone, make Australia British again. David here. Title suggests I'm going to be explaining why I'm firmly against immigration and multiculturalism and why I support the White Australia policy. The White Australia policy was a policy that was enacted during Australia's first year of federation in 1901. The years that followed, mass deportations occurred of people who were coloured. Helped maintain the homogeneity of the nation to keep it mainly a British country. Australia is a British country. Anyone who denies this is simply denying our history. Look at the flag behind me. It's the Australian flag. It contains the Union Jack in the upper left, which is called the canton. So this is representative of the country's British heritage.
It is natural that a British country like Australia should seek as many British migrants as possible and give opportunity to as many British people as possible to migrate to this country. The many non-British migrants who are here recognise and accept this British tradition, which is the foundation and basis of the Australian way of life. Indeed, that is why they came here. That is why they remain here and make such a substantial contribution to the building of this nation.
And the Southern Cross is indicative of where we are in the Southern Hemisphere. People who had been brought over for work, like the Polynesians, also known as colloquially as the Kanakas, who were working in the Queensland sugar plantations, were subsequently deported back to the Pacific Islands. This also included the Chinese during the gold rush, who found out that there was gold in the colony of Victoria in the 1850s. The reason why I'm against multiculturalism is because I believe in an Australia for the Australians. I don't believe that we should bend the knee for other countries. We're the Australian government. We're not the refugee of Oceania. So, for example, I was watching videos back in the 1970s when Australia had participated in the Vietnam War and was subsequently forced to take in immigrants from the Vietnam War. Now, the Australian citizen didn't cause this.
I think we have a responsibility to do something for them as soon as we were involved in the war. We can't turn our back on the responsibility when we were previously involved.
So why should the average Australian pay for what the government did in aiding in a war with the United States that Australia didn't need to be a part of? Other countries, I just don't believe that they're welcome in Australia. The only countries that I believe that should be welcomed in Australia are Northern European or Germanic countries. So Britain, Norway, Sweden, Iceland, Finland, the Baltic states, Germany, Denmark, and possibly Belgium. Of course, this was in accordance with the preferred migrants that we wanted during the White Australia policy. Also, I've noticed that lots of foreign-born people seem to want to tell Australians what to do. Here's an example. Marine Faruqi, she is a politician who was born in Pakistan. If she is so upset with Australia being attached to the Queen, or now King, then why'd she come to Australia? I mean, Pakistan has been free of the British monarchy, I think, since the 40s. So I just think it's a bit silly that she comes over here and then complains about things like white supremacy, or the fact that, you even see people who are born here making similar complaints, like Nazim Hussain, who said that Australia's parliament is quote unquote too white.
To this white guy with glasses, or this white guy, slightly different glasses, or if you're feeling really kooky, this white woman with red hair. We also elect around 150 people in the House of Representatives. No thanks. But if elected politicians are supposed to represent the society in which we live, don't touch me. My question is, why do they all seem to be white?
And I think that's just completely inappropriate. I mean, Sri Lanka, his parents are from Sri Lanka. And it's like, well, why would you move from Sri Lanka, which was a country colonized by the British, to a settler colony where there are more ethnically British people living there? That just seems counterintuitive to me. And if you're so worried about people of colour, then why doesn't he go back to Sri Lanka? Sentiments are echoed, as I said, through even ethnic people born in the country. I've met countless people who have complained about Australia's whiteness, that they're not seen as immediately as Australian, even though they were born here. Sorry, but we had a policy in place to protect your parents from coming into the country. If you have anyone to complain about, it's your parents. Like, and it's just mind-numbing to me how angry that they are that this country has British heritage. Like, it's just a joke. So I'm someone who is of Irish, English, Scottish, and German descent. Expressed by the Anzacs were also in support of the White Australia policy. That's what they fought to protect. The Yellow Peril that happened in the 1940s, the effort in World War II was to protect Australia from the Japanese. And now, from defending our country on the Kokoda track, we've now gone to facilitating the Yellow Peril by letting in so many migrants, and Asian migrants at that. This is something that isn't just a sentiment shared by me, but people like Pauline Hanson, who said back in her maiden speech in 1996, I think, and she said that I believe we're in danger of being swamped by Asians. Now, lots of people called her out for being racist on that. What's racist about not wanting a massive migrant group to come into your country? That's just utter insanity. British people should be the ethnic majority of this country. They cultivated the country. They gave all these ungrateful immigrants and ethnic-born people a reason to actually move here. Before the British colonised, Australia was a pile of dirt, and the Aboriginals were living in mud huts. Like, do we think that's a good way to live? And that Australia was an observer's perspective to the failed projects of multiculturalism in the West.
I don't want to see reproduced in Australia the kind of problem they have in South Africa, or in America, or increasingly in Great Britain. I think it's been a very good policy, and it's been of great value to us. And most of the criticism of it that I've ever heard doesn't come from these Oriental countries. It comes from wandering Australians.
We're the only country that had race-based immigration, because in the United States there were several problems that they had with the African slave trade. They weren't able to deport all the black people. That helped with it. So, and then you had the Revolutionary War of 1778, which then, it didn't America didn't have really an excuse to be white anymore, in my view, because when you deny your British heritage and when you deny where you came from, then what's the point of wanting to keep your culture that way if you deny the whole reason why your culture exists? So that's what I think is the main difference between Australia and America. And many of you will say that Australians aren't British. Well, they are, I'm sorry. It's a country of convicts, British convicts. 58% of people have heritage from the British Isles. We have the Union Jack on our flag. We've already been through most of this, so I don't really think I need to against Australia finding its own culture. I just don't want it to be in the hands of people who want multiculturalism. Why do I need to be proud of, I don't know, Indonesian culture in Australia when, like, I can go to Indonesia to experience Indonesian culture? What does Australia on its own have to offer if we're just simply housing all these other immigrants, quite frankly, exploiters of our British heritage? Like, if we didn't start this out as a British nation, what do we have to preserve going forward? What, Gough Whitlam's post-1975, like, post-1973 ideals where, you know, Australia has no cultural connections to Great Britain. And before you attack me for wanting to have a cultural connection with Great Britain, it's called the Crimson Thread of kinship that Great Britain and Australia share. We may be on opposite sides of the planet, but boy, are we culturally similar. Words that we use: jumper, the Brits say jumper. Trousers, if you're older. You know, that's something shared between a lot of lexical similarities between the two countries. But I'm not settling for an American Australia. I'm not settling for a multiculturalist. I'm settling for what my ancestors fought and died to protect, which was British Australia. Not Italian, not Greek, not any of these other nations, but the British country known as Australia. Australian being a term first coined by Matthew Flinders when he dubbed the land continent as Terra Australis after the Dutch called it New Holland. And then we adopted the name that a British person called it. And it's perfectly fair, perfectly normal for us to want to keep it that way. I don't want to bend to the demands of other nations. Australia is for the prosperity of the Australian people. And before you say that Aboriginal people are the real Australians, most of them actually don't identify as Australian.
I'm sure that you're other... What's your cultural background, Adam? Because I don't know. You're part Aboriginal and what else?
Part Aboriginal and the rest Australian.
And mind you, if they are identifying as Aboriginal, they're actually using a term that was invented by the colonisers. Aboriginal just means native. But in terms of Australian as an idea, that was pioneered by British people in this nation. And that's something that I'll always uphold and protect. Australia isn't a junkyard. Not everyone should be here just for the sake of inclusivity and diversity. If I wanted inclusivity and diversity, I would have gone to places like Singapore or the United States. But I want Australia to feel like Australia again. So thank you for watching. Please follow my social media right here. patreon.com/make_Australia_British_again. Be very helpful if you donate so I can go out and do interviews. Everyone, God bless Australia, have a great day, and God bless you.